Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Average Jocks Hockey Podcast. This week, we decided to switch things up. We decided to ask you, the viewers, to send in some questions, and we'll answer them on air. So we had quite a few come in. So this episode, we're just gonna answer all of them. Hopefully, if not, we'll get to most of them.
Evan, thank you for joining us. We've been meaning to get you on here for a while now.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So this week we put it out, or actually just today, we put it out at around noon to have some of you guys send in some questions over our Instagram and Facebook page. And we were going to answer these questions on this week's episode. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. We'll get to the first question that we wanted to discuss. And that one comes in from Laddie96 on Instagram, where he says, what do you think about the new rule that players who are drafted after 2019-2020 need to wear helmets during warm-up? Do you think this is safety, or is this because of new sponsors on the helmets? So thank you, Laddie96. That is a great question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think with the freak accidents that we've seen in the last few weeks, there was some in the European leagues, notably the Evander Kane one in the NHL when he got his wrist cut. I think they're probably just looking insurance wise, and I'm talking insurance of like financial insurance, like I'm talking player insurance of making sure their stars stay in the lineup. So many young guys now are jumping from the OHL, CHL, European leagues, USHL, jumping right up to being stars in the game. And I think making sure that these guys don't get hit by a stray puck or a stick or fall or whatever in practice, warm up, in risk injury. I just think it's unnecessary. I don't know how many of them actually still do. I mean,
I feel like majority of them wear helmets.
Yeah, I've only been to a handful of games since COVID. I don't really, maybe a couple not wearing helmets, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll let you go first there, Evan.
So actually, as soon as you brought it up, I was thinking of Scotty Gomez, because back in the day, he used to get hit in the head frequently by pucks and warm up. I remember one game he got hit in the head. He had to get off. He got stitches. He played the game. The next game, you could still see the stitches. He got hit in the head again. I think it was in 2010, and he had to get stitches again. And he played with like 2 cuts on his head.
That's awesome,
bald, right? So you could see it. I agree. I agree with the rule. I don't know too much about. I think it's called the grandfather rule, where they let the older guys. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I think everyone should have to. It just.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of dumb, and they're even with the visor thing. Right? And this is before sponsorship, so it's purely safety with the visor. Why? Like, what the grandfathered part of that? To me, if you're talking safety. And I think this comes maybe back more to the NHLPA, more so than the league, because they would have a large say, and the players would have to approve it, which I'm sure is why they have the grandfathered part in, because the older players want to be able to, in this case, not wear a helmet in practice or warm up. I keep saying practice. But I don't know. Like, to me, it's just dumb. Like, either all or none. And in this case, I agree with Evan. You don't need, guys looking like Scott Gomez, being all stitched up, looking like literally from the Addams family.
Like, when you bring that up, the first thing I think of was Taylor Hall. When he had that freak accident where he literally left the game in warm-up, and he had this cracked head, the stitches, when he played in Edmonton.
I don't even remember this.
I think it was a game against Columbus. I'm pretty sure. I think he fell and the player skated into him or something like that. But he ended up being injured for a while from warm-up, and not having a helmet on. And as a dad, I want my kid to always have a helmet on. I don't take him skating outside without a helmet on, just because I know the severity of hitting your head on the ice. He's a kid; these are adults. I get it's different, but I just Like, why? For me, what's the difference if you wear a helmet and warm up if you don't?
Yeah.
You gotta wear one for the game anyway.
I think back in the day, though, like when they first started introducing the helmets, it was, you know, and my grandfather, I remember explaining this to me whenever we'd go see like the local hockey, you know, Saturday nights, like most of the guys didn't wear helmets and warm up. And it was like, oh, these guys, you know, so you can see their face, so you can know them, like that kind of thing. Maybe it's a little bit of that. Maybe they think it looks sick at that hockey flow in the air. I mean, I don't know what Scott Gomez probably wasn't trying to do hockey flow at that time.
Yeah, that's the Taylor Hall.
Yeah, now that you say that, I remember seeing those pictures. I don't remember it happening, though.
It was in 2012 during warm-up. I believe it was in Columbus.
That's very specific for I believe. I believe it was in Columbus.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
But I don't know. Probably a little bit to do with the sponsorships, but I think mainly is probably a safety thing, especially after the Evander Kane injury. I think it's, you know, enough with the stuff that can be prevented, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I agree.
So I agree with that what your grandfather said, where it was back in the day they wanted to show off who they were in that, but everyone knows who everyone is now. Unless
well,
you're
especially
like
social
even Michael
media.
Pizzetta.
You're following whoever you want
are.
to see on Twitter, Instagram, whatever.
So
TikTok.
it's like I never understood why players did that to begin with. Like, you're gonna wear the bucket for the next 60 minutes. It's like
that's right.
You might as well leave it on for the extra 10, 15 you're out skating around. I never understood that, to be honest.
Generation thing though, and I think it's probably just tradition at this point. You know, guys coming in the league probably played with guys that didn't wear buckets in practice, and you know, whatever. And you know, eventually, whether they made this rule or not, I think it would have probably died off.
I think so too. Yeah,
but I mean, whatever. To answer Laddie 96's question, I think it's a safety thing.
I think more safety than sponsor, but I think that has a little bit to do with it.
And Evan, I think you're also safety, eh?
Yeah.
So we had a question sent in by my brother, Big Jod. Shout out to you. Does Rupe Hint's contract extension make sense given the lengthy negotiations that it took to sign Jason Robertson only a couple short months ago? Good question. Fair question.
Should we let Evan go first?
Evan, if you want to hop in there.
I think they learned from their mistakes. I think they wanted Robertson locked up long term.
Justin brought up a good point though, with that, as Jason Robertson gets out of his 4-year deal at $7.75 per. That doesn't have any restrictions, so there is no move clause or 10-team no trade. Like, there's none of that in his contract, and he's an RFA at the end of that deal because he didn't sign long term. So Dallas, even though they probably would have liked to have locked him up long term, and I think Jason Robertson's probably banking on himself, which so far looks good. It
was a smart move for Dallas.
I mean, yeah, if you can't get him long term, you sign him to where you're still going to have control.
Yeah. He can't just up and walk.
He can't up and walk. And the fact that he has a no move if things ever go south and they get to year 3 or 4, and you know they're trying to talk contract negotiations and things are going to a stalemate, they can just say, "Hey, look, we're trading you to Phoenix, Arizona for Clayton Keller," and you know, whatever, and he can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win. I mean, 7.75 in Texas, which I believe have a low state tax. Not chump change.
No.
I mean, I would take it. And like I said, I think he's banking on himself. Justin said earlier, you know, it's a bit of a longer bridge deal. Normally you see bridge deals 2-3 years max, but
they made sure he stayed RFA. That was the big thing.
Yeah, and I think a little bit longer of a bridge deal is the perfect term for this. We'll see what happens. I mean,
he's 23 years old right now, so when that contract's over,
he'll be 27.
He'll be roughly 27.
Yeah. He'll be 27 that summer because his birthday's in July. Well, 27th birthday gift, little contract extension.
And like Hintz is 26 right now.
Hintz is 26, 8 years. That brings him to what, 34?
Yeah. I mean, both of them are great contracts.
I mean, I don't know.
Underrated.
I don't know how I feel though. Like,
what was that, Evan?
He's one of the most underrated forwards right now in the league. It used to be Barkov for the longest time, and not a lot of people that aren't from, the West or that are Dallas fans really know a lot about the guy.
Sorry, are you talking Robertson or Hintz?
Hintz right now.
Okay.
Sorry, I wanted to keep on track with the original question.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. I'm all over my ADHD and just scatters.
Yeah, the same here. So but I do think it's actually a really good signing, especially with the cap going up. I think I don't think it's an overpay now. I think he's been above a point per game or close to a point per game for the last 3 years. So,
and he's a centerman, I believe.
And he's a centerman playing with Jason Robertson on that first line. So, I mean,
do either of you have cap friendly open right now? Like, can somebody tell me what's left on Tyler Seguin's contract?
Probably 2 years.
So Tyler Seguin's contract. What about Jamie Benz? Not that these guys are making. I don't think Jamie Ben's making $8 million, but I think he's probably making around $6 million.
So Tyler Seguin's got till 2027.
2027. So he has another 5 years. Wow.
Yeah, but he stepped up his game. He's coming back.
Yeah, he's been playing well.
He's playing well, but what's he making?
He healed up. 9.85.
9.85. Yikes.
That's his cap hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and what's Ben making?
2019.
Jamie Ben is
3 more years at
9.5.
Oh. So
yeah.
What's the cap right now? What's the cap right now?
It's 8.
What's funny about that, while you check, is they're both playing like their old selves.
They are, but they've also got a better team around them now too.
No, yeah, of course. But
what? And you're still on Dallas there. What's Miro Heiskanen making?
He just signed not too long ago.
Yeah, but what's his extension at?
8.45.
That's a good price.
Let's just do 8.5 on that. So 5 guys on that team. So Ben, Seguin, Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, and Miro Heiskanen, 5 of 20 make up for $44.7 million. Starting next season, and what's the cap? And let's not speculate cap because we don't know what next year's cap is. We'll just go off of this year's cap, assuming it stays the same. It won't, but let's just say it stays the same.
I believe it's 82.5.
80, So let's say 82.5 minus 44.7 million. So more than 50%, they would have 37.8 million left. So more than half to 5 guys. So let's say even that goes up and it's half. It's not going to jump by that much, but let's say it gets to 50% for 5 guys. I'm not the best at math. I wouldn't even say I'm good at math.
Well, I think.
What the fuck is Jim Nill doing?
He's one of those.
He's
guys
not even doing math.
I think Ben or Seguin gets moved though.
I think Ben is going to be.
You're not moving Jamie Benn at $9.5 million with 3 years left. And look, does he have a no trade clause? He's not leaving Dallas.
He has a no move clause.
What about Seguin? They're not leaving.
I agree with Justin. I think I thought it over, and it's definitely would be Ben over Seguin. Not only because
but they both have no moves. Jamie Benn has been a career Dallas Star. He's going to retire a Dallas Star. I will pay you each $50 if Jamie Benn gets moved. That's how confident
would a captain want to stay on a team that doesn't want him though?
They would not. I think Jim Nill, and I mean spending $44.7 million might get you there, is not dumb enough. Jamie Benn to me is the heart and soul of that Dallas team. He's willing to fight and stand up for his teammate. He scores goals. He is, to me, in my head, the last of that Corey Perry, Jamie Benn, Ryan Getzlaf type style of hockey. And I mean, I know Corey Perry's still in the league, but not as effective as Jamie Benn is. You know, I don't know. That's kind of the last of that era of guys in my head that can play like that. And I don't think he waves. His family only knows Dallas. Is he going to uproot his kids and his wife from a warm climate that they've called home for the last, 10 years to go play somewhere else? Maybe in the last year of his contract, because I'm assuming he'll resign, and I'm assuming it's going to be less than 9.5, is going to be wanting to maybe chase a cup in his last couple of years, but I think they have the team that can maybe make another cup run. They went to the finals a couple of years ago. Another guy we forgot that's making a huge cap hit on that team is Joe Pavelski. What's he making?
He's a UFA at the end of the year. So that's my thing. I don't think they're going to be able to sign him.
5.5. But you got to look at this for Dallas.
And to me, he would go up. I think he could easily ask a 1 or 2 year contract at $7 million per. Easy.
And then you also got to consider Jake Ottinger is an amazing goaltender, making $4 million a year for the next 3 years.
Yeah, they got a steal there. So Jim Nill, 1 for 6. Good for you, Jimmy.
Yeah, but
keep it up.
If you compare them to we'll say the Leafs, okay, just because of how much money they like to spend. Forwards. You compare them; they're in a similar situation, except they have an affordable goaltender. I mean, Jamie Benn is going to drop off, so we won't even count him as a top forward. But if you got Robertson, Sege scoring goals, and then Hintz, here's your top 3. You got Heiskanen and Lundell locked up on D. I mean, is there really much else besides your fillers and your system to be a good team for the next 2 years?
I just don't think that they have the depth on D. Ryan Suter, great. Circa 2010. Decent. I mean, I don't think he has what's left in the tank to pull what Shea Weber did a couple of years ago.
Oh, absolutely not.
Or Red Eye Jeff Petrie. But I don't know. Like, past Miro Heiskanen, I mean, Joel Hanley's playing up there. He's, at best, a 7th guy on most teams. Like, I don't think they have the depth that people think they do.
On D, absolutely not.
I mean, even in the bottom 6. Like, I think they would need to add a few decent bodies. Your Blake Colemans, your Barclay Goodrows, like Tampa has done. I don't know. Like, I think they would need to upgrade a couple guys. That would cost a few million to get in there. And I mean, does Scott Wedgwood being your backup goalie help? Does Jake Ottinger having a team-friendly contract help? Of course. But is it enough to get a couple of those guys that you need? Probably not. Thank you to Big Jod for that question.
Tage Thompson?
Yeah, I would love to do Tage Thompson. This one's sent in by Matty Green. And he says, Tage Thompson, do you think that the way he started the season proves that he's the real deal for Buffalo? With that, how well did Buffalo make out with his contract extension? Tage Thompson is probably one of my favorite players to watch in the league over the last few seasons. The guy's a stud. Justin, I think, hit the nail on the head before we went on, and Justin often does that, saves his best work for when we're not filming. And where he said where he's almost like the perfect combination of those big body players that were so effective 5, 6, 7 years ago, with, you know, your Getzlavs, your Bens, you know, maybe Lucic in 2012, you know, your Josh Andersons cutting to the net, like those big body guys. But he can skate with the best of them. And that's what the league is now, is fast skating players that can shoot the puck.
You
and
can't
Tage
skate, you're not gonna
Thompson
make
fits
it.
that category, and he fits the big body. So nobody's knocking him off the puck. And he's scoring.
And he's got hands.
Like the elite. And that's the thing. He's, to me, is such a complete player. And this league is so reliant on skating and speed now. And the fact that he checks that box and he's also a big body, I think is just an added bonus, and it almost makes him like a unicorn. And his contract, I think, is merited. I think
That $7 million for that,
yeah, I'm
hands down.
they don't look to give horse in the mouth, Kevin Adams. I don't think you'll get another one like that anytime soon. So say thank you to Tage Thompson as agent, because they gave you, a very good deal. That's all I have to say about that one. I don't think I need to back up my point anymore.
What about you, Evan?
Well, I wasn't a believer when it was signed. I hadn't watched enough Buffalo games. But there's not another forward in the NHL like Tage Thompson. There's none his size with, like Joel said, his skill. It's actually pretty insane to watch him play. I seen on TSN the other day, he was compared to, I think he said a Walmart Mario Lemieux or something like that, because of his size and his skill. I don't know if he used the word Walmart. I don't know if he used the word Walmart, but I'm using it. It's really cool to watch that guy.
Yeah.
I thought they overpaid him by a good $2 million when it signed, and honestly, I think if he can stay healthy, because it's a little weird with the bigger guys. Sometimes they can get these injuries and like the leg ones, and it's really hard for them to recover. But I think he's being underpaid by $2 million right now.
Hands down, agree with you there. I think he's giving a lot of hope to those bigger players that think that they might not make it in this small, speedy game that's going on right now.
That's a fair assessment. I think
he was drafted as a defenseman, correct?
That I'm not aware of.
Yeah, if that's the case,
I could very well be wrong.
He really is a unicorn then, if that's the case. Can
really
somebody check that, please?
I'm going to check it right now.
That's a hell of a thing to throw out there. That's a bomb.
I think St. Louis drafted him as a defenseman.
I know St. Louis drafted him.
I didn't even know that. What, is that part of the Ryan O'Reilly trade?
Yes.
And I know which would make his stats make more sense, because his stats were horrible leading up to before last year.
It's either that or St. Louis tried him at defense.
Because his stats, sure. In 2017-18, he played 41 games, had 9 points. And then 18-19, he played 65 games and had 12 points. You know way you're putting that up as a forward. And no way you're playing 65 games if you're only putting up 12 points. So he must have been on defense.
I might be crazy, but I'm pretty sure that. I think he played defense for a bit on St. Louis when he was struggling.
Any St. Louis fans out there that can confirm this, please message us or comment. I would love to know if this is true. If you have bonus footage of him playing defense, I would also love to see that. And if we get merch at some point, I'll send you some merch for that. We'll move on to the next question. You guys want to tackle some Leaf stuff for a bit?
Yep.
If we're going to tackle Leafs, I think we should hammer out all the Leaf stuff at once. And we'll start with... Where to start? We'll start with Cam Bennett. Are the Leafs a more competitive team this year than in previous years? And if so, do you think that talent is being wasted? And who would you move to get over the hump?
All right.
Who, Evan, do you want to go for this one first? You want me to tackle it, Justin?
That was a loaded question.
Well, you want to go first?
I'm going to tell you right now, the Leafs are making it past the first round.
Okay.
And the difference, I think, is Austin Matthews. I think he's changed his game, which is why he's not scoring as much. He's focusing more on that two-way center role. And he's kind of building himself into that Bergeron type player, where he's on that I want to win and not I want to score goals. So he's letting the other guys score goals, and he's focusing on that two-way game. And I think come playoff time, in the playoffs, you're going to see him in that shutdown role, playing that two-way game more.
So second part of that question, doesn't really fit in your scenario, but
I don't think they really need to move anybody. I mean, they need defense.
The question is, if they had to, who would you move, and why?
Well, I mean, you'd have to be your odd man out, which would have to be Nylander.
Why?
Because the other guys are just too versatile. Man, you can't trade your captain. He's your best player right now.
Okay.
Marner's a great two-way winger.
Okay.
And the guy is filthy in the offensive zone. Matthews is your goal scorer and your two-way center. So your odd man out is Nylander. I mean, he's not playing bad. I'm not saying neither of those guys are playing bad. He just happens to be the odd man out.
I think over the last 3 or 4 years, Nylander's probably been their most consistent winger.
Absolutely.
In the playoffs by a mile as well.
In the playoffs, absolutely.
I'd be moving John Tavares.
If he wasn't the captain, I'd be all on board.
I don't give a shit that he's captain.
You can't.
I don't think you can trade John Tavares.
What'd you say?
What do you? Would they have to pay to get rid of him?
I mean, the way he's playing right now, they can't even eat
crazy.
salary. It would have to be a 3-team trade and somebody eats salary. But he's playing well enough to get traded. They would get something back in return. They get some good back in return, but I don't know. Like, to me, of those guys, just based on age alone, you move John Tavares.
Now,
why would you want to break up that young core?
Remember that point you made earlier about needing 2 centermen to win cups? You need that 1-2. Who's number 2 then?
I don't think, and I don't believe in this as a person, if I ever make it to GM heaven and become a GM of an NHL team, let alone the Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, original 6 big-name teams, probably wouldn't want to take the job in Arizona. I would, but I wouldn't like it.
All right.
I don't know. Like, you don't trade a center without getting back a center, in my opinion. I would never trade a center and take back a winger or a defense. That's just my philosophy in my head, where it's such a tough position to play and there's so much responsibility and it's so tough to do and to be good at that you don't give one up without getting one in return. Not to say you're giving up John Tavares, you need to take back a John Tavares type player. But it can be a younger center. It can be a prospect center that could come up. And
yeah, but they're in a win now situation.
I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs have the allure that if they were in this, obviously if they're in the position that they need to trade one of these 4, they have been eliminated in the first round playoff. That is, Kyle Dubas has lost his job. Sheldon Keefe is no longer coach of this team. They are golfing
again
right outside the first round playoff.
I'd say they make it past the first round this year.
Yeah, but we're playing hypothetical. That's the point of the question.
Mine would be
hypothetical.
Riley.
If we had to trade one of them, to me it's John Tavares. Clearly something's went wrong. You have all of free agency to replace a second line center or trade in the offseason. You take back some couple young guys. You don't want to take on money because you just got rid of $9 million. And again, this is hypothetical. I think he has a no-move clause. He's not going anywhere. I don't think he would waive. Just hypothetical. In my world, you move John Tavares, get some younger guys back. You sign somebody a little cheaper, even if it's $6 million on a shorter term. Give you a little bit of cap flexity.
Flexibility?
Shut up. And
that's what I deal with, Evan.
Yeah, sorry. I say half French words, you just forget how to talk sometimes, especially in the intro.
This is true.
I don't even remember where I was going. It was a great point, and you ruined it.
I think Evan should
You ruined
talk
it.
now.
You owe an apology to all listeners because it was a great point, and I forget what it is now. So, Evan, go ahead.
Who do you think?
So, with all of what both of you said considered, I wouldn't do Nylander solely because if the other two, and I'm not saying they haven't been performing in the playoffs, but if they don't, like Marner and Matthews, Nylander's been carrying the load the past few first rounds they've been in, and they kind of need that because if they don't, it's going to get ugly. So I think that if they have a game off, you can't afford to trade Nylander. I think Tavares is like almost impossible to trade. I think he's still a good player. I think to the Leafs, it's hard to say to the Leafs he's worth it, but to a team that would have him under that contract, he's not a negative value because he's over a point per game. But mine would be Riley because you can't trade any of those forwards. So I think I would trade Riley and try to acquire a younger defenseman that's not a rookie, one that can still help in a playoff.
You have a name, and like it doesn't have to be a specific, but a type of defenseman that you like. If you're trading Morgan Riley, you're probably getting. You would need. The thing is, he's the number one defenseman, and that's why I think it's unrealistic because there's only a handful of offensive defensemen like that.
No, I
even
agree.
if there's even if he didn't have a no move clause, even if X amount of things happen that they would move a number one defenseman. What, like, without getting a number one defenseman back,
I think
they create more issues.
I think the Leafs need the whole team to step up, right? So if you get a few guys for Riley that I think, and a weird hypothetical
like
trade,
what? Like, don't even give me a name. What piece would you want to acquire for Morgan Riley that would help the Leafs that moving one of those four forwards can't get you?
2 top 4 defensemen.
2 top 4. So one blue chip. Team. So what team that you can think of, and again, you don't have to give me names of players, just give me a team that you think has the wealth of defensemen that they can give up 2 top 4 guys for 1.
I'm not saying it would work cap-wise, but I'm saying a team like, I don't know if it would work for them, but a team like Calgary, like a Noah Hannafin and a Uyghur, and maybe you throw in some picks for Riley. I don't think either team would do that trade. But I just think that Toronto, Muzzin's out. He's not coming back.
No, he's not. He's done.
He's done. So Muzzin's gone, and he's been a shell of himself, because of injuries for a while now. Giordano's actually playing pretty good, but is he going to be? See, a guy like that, you don't know if he's going to be injured. If he goes down with an injury, and he's not available in the playoffs, they're screwed.
Yeah.
So I think they need to get better defensemen. So, I mean, I guess if you were to trade Nylander, you could get that. Or if you traded any of them, you could get that, really. But I just think that Riley's – it's complicated because he can play really well. When he's on his game, he's definitely a number one defenseman. But defensively, the team has weaker goalies. They need to bolster that defense defensively, not offensively. They have the offense up front.
But they don't have to give up Morgan Riley to get, let's say, again, look just within the conference, David Savard, Joel Edmondson from Montreal, who has a wealth of young D coming up. You can pick off a guy like that.
I'm saying like a guy like Joel Edmondson, and obviously not a goalie, because that would be – I mean, if Montreal was a contending team, that I could see that a trade like that happening, an Edmondson and a goalie for a Riley, but Montreal's not contending. And that would make no sense to Montreal. But like a trade like that, obviously picks involved. Like it's very hypothetical, but in my opinion, like because of what Justin said and you said, you'd be Tavares. But like I said, you know how hard it'd be to trade John Tavares right now.
I think he gets his walking papers. That's just my gut feeling. I think he's done.
Move on.
We'll move on.
There's this one that I wanted to talk about.
Okay, what do you want to talk
about? Hellebuck.
All right. So this was sent in by Ryan Lepage on Facebook. He says, Jets fan here. Connor Hellebuck yelling at the refs after not stopping the play after his helmet came off, and a crucial goal was scored while he was laying on the ice. Why wasn't the play stopped dead? Doesn't that go against the NHL protocols? Justin is a stickler for the rules. I think he has the rules pulled up. Actually, he read them to me earlier. I'll let you take the lead on that.
So, Evan, I'll read you the rules, and I want you to tell me if you think the play should have been blown dead or if it was a good goal. So this is the goal. This is the rule for goaltenders. So when a goalkeeper has lost his helmet and/or face mask, and his team has possession of the puck, the play shall be stopped immediately to allow the goalkeeper the opportunity to regain his helmet and/or face mask. When the opposing team has possession of the puck, play shall only be stopped if there is no immediate or impending scoring opportunity. Then this stoppage of play must be made by the referee. Now, do you think, I don't know if you've seen the video. Did you watch the video?
I have not.
Okay. Well, so after...
You know what? Let's just pull up the video.
Let's just pull up the video. Watch it, yeah.
What's that?
I'll just watch it.
Okay.
I'll watch the goal.
take.
All right. Now that we've watched the video, Evan, what are your thoughts based on the rule that Justin said, and based off the video you have seen? Goal, no goal, should have been blown dead.
I think he should have been blown dead.
I agree.
Not only was his helmet knocked off, he looked injured. That he could have easily had a concussion there. So when a goalie's injured, especially to that extent, it's not like getting a stick in the eye where there's blood or getting a cut, which they would have blown dead immediately. He still got potentially a concussion from that hit. I don't know if he did. I don't think he did, but he easily could have. And they didn't blow it dead. I think that's...
And I think to Justin's point earlier, he told me, it was a guy who has time to skate around the net, couple passes made before the puck goes in the net. I was a referee in soccer, and to me, anytime there was a talk of like immediate scoring chance or imminent scoring chance, it's like empty net, guy has the ball on his foot, or in this case, the puck on his stick, he's going to shoot. The only there would have to be a miracle stick dive. Guy breaks his stick, misses the net. Patrick Stefan-esque thing happen for it not to go in. So to me, that's what I think. This wasn't the case. So to me, this is no goal. They screwed up on this. I think Hellebuyck, did he have to go and come back and be like, oh, I could have been injured? Yes, you could have. But to me, the bigger thing is, why aren't you following the rule? Like, to me, the argument for me should be the fact that it wasn't an imminent. It was around the net, couple passes made before the puck ends up in the net. That would have been what I was arguing more so than the injury thing. And, also, if a player loses his helmet, he has to go right to the bench. The goalie loses his helmet, and
they're able to block a slap shot.
Yeah, and I mean, if he cared about his team, he would have. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, you're obviously not gonna block a shot without your helmet purposely.
For me, the big thing it was Dallas who knocked the helmet off. So it wasn't like he wasn't even his own team. It wasn't like an incidental contact. Mm-hmm. And like he skated around the net, made a couple passes, and then there was a shot all while he's laying on the ice with no helmet. Mm-hmm. So like I don't understand why that's not blown down. Even if you want, like, I think there should be more clarification on the rule. I think no matter what, the play should be blown dead.
Yeah.
Unless the team is about to shoot the puck, then yes. But again, there's two passes made. It happened behind the net, and the shot was taken at the blue line.
Yeah,
so that's not a scoring opportunity.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
If it was on the wraparound,
yes, maybe, yes.
If he had not been hit, though, there's no scoring chance at all. If Hellebuyck does not go down hurt, there's no scoring chance. It's not like he went to stop a breakaway, got hit by the player, they let him go skate it in. It's different. There was no empty net before he got hit. There was none after. Well, there was one after, but only because he got hit and he literally had no helmet and he was laying on the ground.
So
if a
Ryan,
shot had ricocheted.
So Ryan, to answer your question, should have been blown dead. No,
should have been.
No. That was my Wes McCulley impersonation. So a couple questions here. One from Jason Swerdfigure, who is rocking an awesome mullet right now. To his wife Amanda, let him keep that mullet. And Joel Price on Facebook mentioning, are the Devils the real deal or will they burn out? Great question. I think they're the real deal. They're young. They got good goaltending in all three goaltenders. If Jonathan Bernier comes back at one point, Mackenzie Blackwood,
Vanacek,
Vitek Vanacek, Jonathan Bernier.
I honestly completely forgot they had Bernier.
That's stellar.
Yeah.
You're laughing. I think they got some pretty good defense. No big names, but all serviceable guys.
Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, but I meant more like past your top two. Like, it's not like Tampa of a few years ago where they had Sergachev, Hedman, Ryan McDonough, David Savard. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like an abundance of big name D. Like, they have Dougie Hamilton.
Severson.
In Severson.
Yeah.
And then the rest is serviceable guys, but guys that get the job done. It's not like they're hurting back there. They can go in with these 6 or 7 in the playoffs, and I think they'll be fine. And they got great forwards being led by Jack Hughes, and I think he's taken a next step this year, and he's really showing that he's a superstar in the NHL.
Even Heishier's been playing amazing.
Yeah, but I think he's another one, like Evan was saying earlier, of guys that are underappreciated or undervalued. I think he is a great two-way center.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you think, Evan?
I think Jack Hughes, listen, I think that in his prime, this is going to be a
hot take.
I think that in his prime, he's going to be a top 5 player in the NHL. I think I'm not saying Crosby or Ovi are leaving anytime soon, but once they're gone,
well, I mean, they are. I mean, Ovi's 37, Crosby's 36.
Yeah, but they're still putting up points, so you never know. Could be a
once Ovi passes Wayne Gretzky, he's going back. He's going back to Russia.
Yeah, he already has this cup. Makes sense. But back to my other point. I think if Jack Hughes didn't get hurt last year, he was finishing top 10, top 5 in points in the league.
I agree. I think he's a special player. And again, it comes back to what we said earlier about the skating. I think he has the skating and the skill, and that's what the league is right now.
We used a Walmart-esque Lemieux for Thompson. I see a McDavid-esque without the speed for Hughes.
Oh, it's a big comparison.
You know what, though? I see it. I see what Evan's saying. I mean, I don't think we're going to see another skater like McDavid for a very long time.
No, of course not.
But Jack Hughes skating is above what a good player is in the league. I'd say he's a great skater, great hands, great finisher. I can easily see him being a top 10, top 5 player in the league, for sure.
100%. Potential's 100% there.
I don't think that's a hot take.
No.
I think that's a smart take.
Okay, fair. But to continue on with that, so you got him. That's the one big piece. You need that one top center. He's still young, but like he's been putting up point per game for what, 2-3 seasons now? Two seasons?
Without injury, probably, yeah.
So you look at that, you have that, and then you have Hischier, like you said. That's your number 2 guy, your Bergeron, not Bergeron, not even a Walmart Bergeron yet, but you got that two-way shutdown.
That's fair. I think more than a Walmart, maybe a Costco Bergeron.
I think he's a very similar player to Suzuki, just a little bit less offensive flash.
No, but that's what Bergeron is he not?
More defensively, yeah. He's got the more defensive. I guess he's got the defensive traits of Bergeron, but his numbers haven't been bad.
No,
but I don't think he's that. Like if Hughes gets hurt, he sure as your first line center wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but it'd be like a Phil Deneau. It wouldn't be a guy putting up a ton of points that a first line center taking you the cup would. But I'm not saying Jack Hughes is going to get hurt either, but he's a good support guy. And they have the wingers. I know you said Tatar shouldn't be in the top 6. He shouldn't. He shouldn't be in the top 6 since his Montreal days, which was even the second year in Montreal was his last year. His last year in Montreal was not good. So Thomas Tatar doesn't fit in that contender top 6, but they could always go out and get a piece. Their first round pick's not going to be valuable this year. Do I think they're going to stay top 2, top 3 in the league? I don't know.
Should we move on?
Moving on. One last question. That's really hockey debate before we get into some fun ones here, and it's from my dad. So shout out to Danny Boy. Who's sitting at home right now with after hip surgery, watching these podcasts and the Lazy Boy. Diehard fan. Thanks, Dad. He wants to know, does Alexander Ovechkin have another 50-goal season? Evan, I'll let you start.
I think so. I think he's got one more in the tank.
And is it this year?
If it's not this year, he's getting it next year. And if he doesn't get it next year, then no. But I do think he gets it.
So you went from yes, he has it in the tank.
No. Yeah, but
if it's in
he's
the
got to
next
get
2
it.
years, to if it's not
He's
next
got
year,
to get
it's
it in
no.
the next 2 years.
Okay.
He's gonna get it in the next 2 years, in my opinion.
Okay.
If he doesn't get it this year, he's gonna miss by maybe a few.
Yeah.
And then next year he's gonna go all out and maybe.
Yeah.
I'd say no. I say probably hover around the 40 goal mark for the next probably couple seasons before he starts dropping off.
I think he does. He does not get it this year. He hits about 40 this year. And then, like Evan said, he goes balls to the wall next year, gets 50, 55.
Whoa.
Okay, it's 5 more. The guy, like, we're 20 games in, he has like 100 shots on net. I mean, that's not unrealistic. Yeah, I think he gets it next year.
We'll have to see. We'll have to come back to this video in a couple of years.
Yeah. So now we're going to move into some fun stuff. We'll start with, we'll go back to Tim McNally. Who is the NHL's best kept secret? He wants one in the East and one in the West that you think are ready to break out. So your perception, I guess, is open again to somebody that you think hasn't broken out yet, so has more to offer. And you're kind of predicting who's going to be the next star in the East and the West. Anybody volunteer to go first?
I'm thinking.
You're thinking, Evan, you got one, or you want me to go?
Well, listen, I've got a question for you.
Sure, shoot.
That has to do with it. Would you consider the fact that Nick Suzuki's having his start to that meaning he's already broken out?
That is your perception. I'm going to leave that to you.
Because
if you feel like Nick Suzuki is breaking out this year and we didn't know this was coming, then yes, Nick Suzuki, in my interpretation, fits in that category. Would I say, wow, Evan, that's a gutsy take? No.
No, so we're going to stick away from that then, because I only do gutsy takes.
You want to make another hot take. All right.
So I'll let you start, and then I'll get my hot take.
All right. In the East, I think that it goes to Tim Stützle.
It's a good one.
I think that he has a lot more to offer in Ottawa. I think playing with DeBrincat on that power play is going to do wonders for him. I hope, and I'm not a Sens fan, that Alex DeBrincat re-signs in Ottawa. I think that it was a gutsy move by Pierre Dorion. And I think that it would look good, and I think it would do wonders for that team to have a guy like Alex DeBrincat on that team. I think Tim Stützle can be a real weapon, and I don't want to make comparisons. I don't like making comparisons. But he kind of reminds me of a David Pastrnak.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. But his release and just kind of the way he plays reminds me of David Pastrnak. Other than that, I don't know. I don't think he's as big as David Pastrnak. But I don't know. He reminds me of David Pastrnak. We'll see if he gets there.
Some would say a Walmart Pastrnak.
a Walmart David Pastrnak. We're going to get that on a shirt for you, Evan.
Thank you.
In your West?
And in my West, that one I'm having a little tougher time. Like there's a couple guys I'm thinking of that I'm just like, I hope they break out. I would like to see them break out. But to say that I have a strong gut feeling, I can't think of any. I know who I would like to see break out, and that would be Niels Hoglander in Vancouver. I would like to see him. He's really small, but I think he has a lot of offensive upside. I would like to see him generate some more scoring, and maybe he'll get that opportunity when they move Bo Horvat, because I think it's a matter of when and not if. Hopefully he gets that opportunity. We'll see. I take Niels Hoglander in the West.
So I was thinking for the West, I was thinking Jamie Drysdale.
Okay, I think that's a good answer.
That's a very good answer.
So everyone's known for quite some time he's a good offensive defenseman, but I think end of this year, beginning of next year, he'll start becoming like that number one defenseman he was drafted to be. I don't know if he's going to be there yet, but you're going to see it. Right now, you can get glimpses of it, but I think Drysdale's going to break out fairly shortly if he's not already breaking out right now. If that's what you would consider breaking out.
I'm really interested to hear what your East pick is, because the other guy that I had a toss up in my head for.
I have my East. I just can't think of someone.
I think Evan's gonna go with who my runner up was in the East, but I just want to see.
It depends. Was he on the Senators?
No.
Okay, so I was thinking of two. I was thinking of Noah Dobson as well.
Not who I was thinking. You were pretty confident that I was also thinking Noah Dobson. He's a good pick, but not who my runner up was.
No, that's who I decided fully. I was thinking Shane Pinto as well, but that
would have been another good answer. There's a lot of
he's breaking out. Right?
Pinto, yeah, I think so.
But mine's Noah Dobson as well. He's playing with who? Alexander Romanov right now. That's a solid pairing. He's a top 4 guy, but I think he has the potential to be not a true number 1 Dobson, but I think he gets pretty close to being like a Jeff Petrie on the Habs last year, even though Jeff Petrie on the Habs last year wasn't playing like a number 1, but that type of role, like a replacement one.
I think that's a solid comparison. I think that's a solid pick.
All right,
Justin, what do you got for me?
Well, the East for me was easy. I think Lefebvre.
Really? See,
I think he's yeah.
Before you continue, I just want to throw out. I honestly thought, Evan, you were going to say Caden Gooley, and that's who my runner-up was.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he's already broken out. That's why I didn't say him, and I didn't want to keep talking about the Canadians.
Fair enough. Moving on, Alexi Lafreniere.
I mean, he's got the potential. He's got the size. I think he's ready. He's playing on a good team. This is the time. This is like he's got like it's set up perfectly for him. He's got a good offensive team, good goaltending. Like the team is built nice.
Who's he playing with?
I'm not sure where he's playing in the lineup, but he's got to put the work in, and then everything else will kind of come, right?
I believe he's on the third line, second power play.
Pretty specific.
I think. I'm not sure.
But yeah, this is his third year, right? Third year for Lefebvre?
I think so.
Due. Yeah. If it doesn't come soon, it ain't coming. So
I'll find what line.
The West was tough, so I kind of just threw a name out there. I'm gonna go Perfetti.
Pretty good. Fair. That's a solid name.
I think. I think Winnipeg's not a horrible team. He's a lot of players he could learn from. He's a smaller player, but I think he could easily break out.
That's a really good pick.
I mean, no slouch for Vinny Trocheck at third line center here behind Philip Schittle and Mika Zibanejad with Lafreniere on his wing on the third line. Vitaly Krastov, another one with that French saying, "Pas fort on him, pas fort." I don't know. I think you can probably switch him out. I'm surprised that Jimmy Vesey is on the first line in New York.
That's more. I think that's more of like a trial thing as opposed to a steady thing.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Maybe Rangers fans can let us know. Second time around in New York, any better? But I mean, that's playing with Vinny Trocheck. You're not hurting. You're not hurting for a center there. But Vitaly Krastov, hopefully that's not long because I don't think too highly of him. In this one, it was probably my favorite question that we had sent in, and it is from Joel Price, and it is actually his bonus question, he says. And it's favorite NHL game you've been to and why? You want to go first?
Sure.
Justin goes first.
I went to Montreal, Colorado game in Montreal. Went with Matt Green, actually. He scored, we were like 8 rows from Colorado bench up. And Patrick Roy was my all-time favorite player. And he was coaching at the time. McKinnon was just a kid. But being like that close to my idol, and it was a young Colorado team. PK Subban was a superstar in Montreal. Galchenyuk was decent. Probably most fun game I've ever been to. even I remember looking down at the bench and something happened on McKinnon's shift, and he just absolutely lost his shit on the bench. Like just like slammed the door, and he was screaming at everybody. And I don't even think he had the A on his jersey at the time. Like and then obviously we all know how Patrick Waugh coaches.
Yeah.
Montreal ended up winning that game. We were up 3-1 at one point, and I think Duchesne ended up scoring to make it 3-2 before the end. But I remember just looking down and just seeing Patrick Waugh absolutely rip into his team, and just like it was amazing. It was just such a cool experience to be that close. To be like I know I'm like
especially
Patrick
seeing
Waugh.
Patty Rock coach. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then how about you?
I've got two. I'm really torn. My one is a really quick story.
Tell us both.
My one is a really quick story.
Yeah,
It was the game 3 of the Montreal versus Winnipeg during the COVID season, during our playoff or cup run. It was amazing because there was 2,500 fans. First playoff game, and we went to the finals, right? So that was pretty cool. But probably my favorite game was in 2008. It was Montreal versus the Atlanta Thrashers. Listen, it was my first ever game. Big Cristobal Huet fan. Obsessed with the guy.
He's my favorite Habs goalie of all time.
Oh, well, I mean, I put Price there, but number 2 is Huet.
Well, I already told you what mine was, so
yeah.
Yeah. The day of the game was on trade day.
Ooh, that would have been a spicy
day.
game. Do they do that? Is there still games on trade deadline day?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So it was on trade deadline day. So I left. I was a kid. I was 8 years old. I didn't have a phone. I couldn't keep up with the trades. I'm on my way to the Bell Center. Montreal traded Huet that game. And I didn't know until this guy named Carey Price with a white helmet was on the ice. And I'm like, who the heck is this guy? I didn't want to see him. So basically, I watched Montreal spank the Thrashers 8-1. It was the coolest experience I've had in my life. The Bell Center is incredible. Even more back then. Well, more drunks back then, but it was an insane game. And it's just funny that I remember as a kid being like, I really don't like this Price guy. It should have been Huet. And
he's your favorite goalie now.
Yeah. So I think that's probably number one. The playoff one felt cool. Really nice, but
man, I have so many. Like as Evan's talking, I'm getting like, oh, I could have been like, this could have been my favorite.
Just pick one because you can talk forever.
I can
it's really
talk
hard,
forever.
guys.
I'll narrow it down. I'll give you 4.
Not a sleeping bag, Evan.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it quick. My second ever NHL game was my first and second NHL game were both at the former Corel Center in Ottawa, which was then Canadian Tire Center, Scotiabank Place, then Canadian Tire Center. Is it still Canadian Tire Center?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. And we were sitting 2 rows from the ice and 3 seats from the tunnel on the Montreal bench. And at that time, they weren't worried about fans throwing stuff at people in the tunnel, going back to the locker room. So there was none of that, tent or whatever you want to call it. So you could fist pump the players and that kind of thing. And I was like 10. And I was at the game with my grandfather on tickets he won. And, fist pumping the players as they're coming off after warm up. Whatever. And then after the game, fist pumping the guys again. And Sheldon Souray gave me a stick. And he scored 2 goals that game. Or a goal and 2 assists, something like that. And I was just like, that's sweet. And I still have that stick today. It's in my bar at my house. My next favorite NHL game was with my buddy Rick. And this game was Montreal-Detroit in Montreal. And the lead up to this story is even crazier, or the lead up to this game. Because I was going to college in Ottawa at the time, and Rick's father, or stepdad, sorry, would have tickets through his company for the game, and we ended up going to to the game that night. Eric texted me. He's all like, hey, do you want to go to the game? So he sent his mom to drive from Cornwall up to Ottawa to pick me up after my college class. Drove back to Cornwall. He then took the car, drove up to Montreal, and we are literally the last fucking row at the Bell Center. I don't know if you ever sat in the 400 at the Bell Center. There is nothing good happening up there. Like, you're getting beer spilled on you. You're sitting like this in the, like, looking down. They actually have TVs up there so you can see what's happening. And we're just up there, and just the guys that are fucking hammered, and we're 18, 19, watching this game. Montreal was down a couple goals. They ended up tying it late. I think it was David Desharnais, and then we won it in a shootout. Was Drouin there when Desharnais was there? No,
Definitely not.
Okay. I want to say Drouin, or maybe it was something else. It was definitely something else. But I just remember we kept cheering because, we were just making fun of. There was that meme going around at the time about David Desharnais being like Michel Terrier's like son or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're all like, "Oh, David Desharnais scored at the tying goal. Michel Terrier is going to take you for some chicken nuggets after the game at McDonald's." And it was just, the guys having the beers loved it, and they were like in their 60s, and they're loving us, arms around us, and like just fucking ice reeked like Budweiser after the game. And Eric and I were super pumped and just riding that victory high. And then he drove me all the way back to Ottawa, and then he went back to Cornwall. And I was just like, that is a lot of driving to sit in the 400s. But the experience of just like the comeback win, being in the 400s and just experiencing these guys hammered and just loving life, and I don't even think they knew what was going on. That's how tanked they are. The next two that I have in mind, one is I actually experienced it with Evan, and it's not an actual game, but it's an NHL event, was the draft this past year in Montreal. Evan and I both went. We've met a ton of NHL personalities, whether it's former players, GMs, coaches, TV guys. Evan even fist pumped Juraj Slafkovsky. Just that, probably, if I had to pick a game or that experience, that was probably the best hockey experience I ever had in my life. But the last one is, again, my buddy Ricky. And Ricky, if you know Ricky likes to party, and likes to party hard. And we were still in college. This is, I think it probably, had to have been the same year as the Detroit one. But we didn't go to the game. We went to Casual Spot in Gatineau, and it was a bunch of Habs fans. Ricky's a Habs fan too. And our buddy Cam, who's a Sens fan, and Montreal was playing Ottawa in the first round. This is the year the Hamburglar made his debut, and they won like that crazy run to get into the playoffs. I don't even remember what game it was. I think it may have been like the clinching game of, what is it, round one they played?
Yeah.
And we're at this Casual Spot. Drinks are flowing. I'm DD. The table had so many pitchers. It's disgusting. Ricky had quite a bit to drink, and it was, I believe it was a decently high scoring game, maybe like 4-4 or something. And every time Montreal would score, Eric's getting up from our table, running around, and this Casual Spot is built strange. It's almost like a staircase, the way it's built. And we were on one of the higher levels. So he'd run down, 3 flights or whatever, high-fiving people, fist bumping, whatever. So Montreal scored in overtime. Alex Galchenyuk scored the OT goal on the Hamburger. Eric, cheering, pumped up, ripped out a lady's earring.
Oh,
this
my God.
Big hoop earring. She's pissed. Rightfully so. and just hammered. He goes over, tries to give her a kiss on her cheek. Her and her female companion did not like that. So Eric tries to smooth things over. Being hammered, he sends them over a drink. Instead of just telling the waitress, send them over whatever they're drinking, he sends them over, they're having like beer. And he sends them over these like fruity cocktails, and he's waving and blowing kisses and that, trying to smooth things over. And they're just like, why the hell would you send over like this sangria or these cocktails? Like, we're not even drinking that. And they were just pissed. And he was just like, just on a high for Montreal winning. I don't even think they were there to watch the game. And just ripped out this lady's earring. And I think that is probably one of my favorite moments of just like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, those are my 4 moments. I'm sorry, I took up time. Didn't really stick to the question. Just stories I want to tell.
I'd
like
one.
to say that.
Go ahead, Evan.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I don't know if you guys remember the game in Ottawa when Subban scored in OT and he did the thing with his jersey in Ottawa and Anderson didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Craig Anderson made a comment after the game how Montreal was the away team. He shouldn't have done that. When it was disrespectful or whatever. Well, I was at that game, and I remember like reading the news article the next day, but like I was there, I saw that.
What were you gonna say, Evan?
To add on to yours, that draft, I would have said the draft too, by far. There's nothing that'll ever compare in my life in hockey or anything.
Unless I was at like a draft. Game 7, Montreal, Stanley Cup playoff clinching game, and they won.
Yeah. That's different.
Or I'm named GM of the team. I don't think there's anything that, like that experience was top notch. I
remember being like, oh, these are so pricey just to sit there and watch these names. It's going to be so boring. We met the entire NHL, man. That was such a surreal moment. Like,
yeah, no, it's like in the feeling. Like in like Evan said, like you think like, okay, like Montreal's picking first overall, or Montreal fans. By pick 10, we can leave. But like it was just nonstop. Like, go and take a piss, come back. Oh, there's Mike Camilleri. Oh, turn around. Oh, bumped into Anthony Stewart from Sportsnet. Oh, turn around, walking back to my seat. There's Max Talbot and Bruno Gervais. We're not in a rush after because you're gonna have to wait 4 hours in parking. Oh, let's go down and we got to talk with Julien Brisebois, GM at Tampa, and Matthew Darche, and like it was just everywhere you turned there was somebody to meet. Christ, we're eating supper at Casual Spa at the Bell Center, and we look out the window and there's little penguin Gary Bettman walking into the arena.
It's funny because I like Eric had a little too much to drink then, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I actually seen Gary Bettman. I'm like, is that Gary fucking Bettman?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of those I'm walking out. We're walking to the car after, and I'm stumbling around, and this big guy walking in front of me in a suit, and I'm he's scout or something from some team, and I kind of trying to pass him, and he cut me off, not let me go, and it's because it was Bill Daly. He was Bill Daly's security team. So I'm just, and he looked at me because I didn't recognize bald guy. It's dark, whatever, and he just looks at me, and I don't know if he's like thought I was trying to cut him off to go talk to Bill, but he's like, "You want a picture of Bill Daly?" I'm like, "Sure." Like, okay.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that draft. If anyone ever has a chance to go to a draft in their city, they've got to go.
100% do it. I recommend it. Even if it's not in your city, if your favorite team is hosting, I'd go. Great experience. I'd do it again. I'd go again if it was in Ottawa.
Do it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our questions. Evan, thank you for joining us. Much lengthier than we thought, but I got verbal diarrhea, and once it starts, I can't stop it. I can't.
Awesome.
So
well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, this was fun. It's actually it was different to just kind of talk ourselves.
It is, and I think we do this again, and I would definitely have Evan back on. Yeah, and Evan's actually joining us. Justin and I are covering.
He's one of the ones coming.
Yeah, he's coming with us, and the media passes. and we'll be doing some interviews at the World Junior A Challenge tournament. Something. It's an international tournament coming to Cornwall. World Junior A Challenge. I think there's like Team Sweden, Latvia, US. There's a couple Canadian teams.
That's it. They said 5 teams.
So we'll be interviewing some players, some coaches. Evan will be joining us. There's Justin, myself, and my buddy Ricky. I'm going to try and get Ricky on camera. You guys are going to love this guy. So there's the 4 of us covering that. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably run a couple ads maybe next week about that tournament, so you guys know what we're talking about. And it's not just this Justin or I with this random Latvian guy at some point. But thanks again, Evan, for coming on. We look forward to having you back on with us in a couple weeks.
I had a great time. I love chatting hockey.
Well, whenever Joel let us talk, that is.
Yeah, that's fine. For all of you saying Justin's quiet, no, I talk a lot. Justin is quiet, but I talk a lot. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
Take care.
All right, have a good one, Evan.
All right, so we just want to thank Evan once again for coming on this week. Next week's podcast, we have Sean Starr from TSN 690. We are pumped to have Sean on, so make sure to tune in next week's episode, and thanks for listening.
Cheers.